Alright, hello everyone. This is Crota giving you a shoutcast in a game between IMYongHwa versus Harrier here on Antigua Shipyard. And I got a lot of comments yesterday about my NPRS style of casting. Some people said it was rather boring, kind of like, watching NPR This American Life, or just listening to the news, or watching some sort of classical channel. Other people were like, wow, you got a good voice for radio. Now I don't know which casting style you guys like more, but I do know I do get excited, so hopefully I'll just downplay it just a little bit during the opening parts of the game where there's really not that much going on. And then maybe if I see a really good executed build or some sort of strategy, I can go ahead and talk about that and make my predictions. Some people were also saying like, hey, don't try to predict who's going to win. I'm like, well, I don't try to predict who's going to win. I just basically say what my thoughts are and whether or not a defense is going to be coming or if the game will be decided shortly. So hopefully I don't say, oh, this is a flat out winner. But then again, I try to make it so that I'm not too wrong too often. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into this game as we see Yonghwa opening up with a pylon and a gateway. No assimilator as of yet. That should be coming in momentarily. Meanwhile, a barracks on the front door. An interesting positioning on the barracks. This is going to be forced cross spawns of Antigua Shipyard, meaning that the probe knows exactly where to go. We'll see if another barracks or perhaps a factory is added here, as we are going into a refinery. That is your standard 13 refinery. The probe should be able to sneak in, no real problems whatsoever, as now an SCV out on the move in order to do a bit of scouting. Barracks will be completed in just a moment. Orbital command should be upgraded. Gas is already up and running, so it looks like IMYongHwa will be responding with a cybernetics core and waiting for that stalker, knowing that this is going to be at least a little bit of tech, and we'll see what will come of it. Back over here, supply depot being built and in the fog over here. Not exactly sure why. There's not that many units that can really walk up or down from this location, at least for Protoss. As a Marine, getting in a bit of stutter step, and will it be enough? Yes, enough damage is dealt. The SCV even gets the kill, as now we should be going into a factory here. A factory being built close to the orbital command, and this is a strange set of buildings coming in from Harrier. So we'll see what Harrier tries to do, as we now see a double gas being established by Yonghwa. Now this is always a very, very difficult situation for Terran players. A Terran player may spot the double gas, but he really needs to see what that all-important third building is. A Protoss player can easily just go into sentry production, and with high sentry production simply with high sentry production be able to expand off of this. Or he could try to go for a tech building. Two very, very viable options here. We'll see what will be happening as stalkers are now making their way out, and it looks like this hidden SCV from a Harrier will be able to do a bit of scouting and figure out that there is a Twilight Council. So this is going to be a very aggressive tech play, and this SCV needs to time it just right, where he does pop out and try to figure out and gain a little bit more scouting information, as a bunker is now being established. Interesting, it is a Twilight Council followed by a robotics facility, so double tech here, as this SCV still doesn't know any new information just quite yet. SCV now coming around, sees that there is a robotics facility. Will it spot the Twilight Council? No. It sees one of the two key tech buildings. It's going to come back around now. Is it going to spot the robotics or the Twilight Council? Yes, it does. And with that information, Harrier is in a very nice position to figure out what will be coming in, and it looks like it will be warp prisms with blink. So trying to move that home field advantage. An additional 2 more gateways will be warped in. Most likely a warp prism will be added as well. Stalkers will be able to blink straight up onto the high ground and then reinforce with that warp prism, as the Marines are going to really have to try to fight back. There is now a Banshee being added and siege tanks being added with siege tech. The problem, though, is that the Banshees will fall rather quickly to the Stalkers, and the bunker has been salvaged. So nicely done, Harrier, realizing the dire situation that he is in, deciding to pull back and not take nearly as much ground. And this is a key point and effort as a Banshee now flies out. We are going into more siege tanks, siege tech, as well as second siege tank now being added. Not that much gas, as we are going into a proxy pylon here. An observer now being added up, so it is not going to be a warp prism as I originally thought. It is just going to be observers. So we'll see whether or not enough units can be warped in on the high ground. This one Banshee is going to have to deal a lot of damage in order to be successful. Blink has been completed. 2 proxy pylons have already been established. There is 1 observer out with no ravens nearby. This is going to be a definite situation, as the Stalkers will be able to blink straight up onto the high ground. But right now, in comes this Banshee, and the Banshee already getting off 1 kill. There is 1 kill. There's 2 kills, but the Stalkers quickly blink their way in, and this Banshee, already down to 80 hit points, will not be able to do all too much. Currently sitting on 6 Stalkers outside that front door. The siege tanks do have siege tech. The observer is still trying to fly around. Where are they going to blink? That is the question. The siege tanks do cover a very large portion of the map, but it's really going to come down to this Raven, as Harrier being very defensive, knowing that his opponent is very aggressive here. This one particular observer now simply blinking in. The Stalker is going to be able to take down this supply depot, and now we are supply blocked. Siege tanks need to move forward. Siege tanks do get off an easy shot there as the Marines try to dance around. A siege tank needs to siege up again, and now these Stalkers are in a bit of a pickle. They need to blink down in order to not fall apart. The siege tank getting in some easy shots there. The observer still parked. The Raven does spot it, but the observer does have time to move away. And that was a critical mistake, as Harrier could have cleared off at least one of the observers. The front door still has an observer here, excuse me, as the Stalkers now blinking their way in and now getting some easy damage on this barracks. The barracks attempting to fly away will not be able to do so, and now the front door is completely wide open. Harrier being forced to reposition the siege tank to at least get in some damage onto those Stalkers. Now, none of these players have yet to establish a second base. Meanwhile, IMYongHwa does have a Nexus full of energy, so he could perhaps start to Chrono Boost, as Harrier now looking to establish a new command center, but this is going to be, oh, no good. The point defense drone unable to intercept the attack in time. Oh, able to intercept enough of the attacks as the siege tank still dealing some damage, and that 1 point defense drone really helped out, saving a siege tank, keeping it alive. And very rarely does 1 siege tank or 1 point defense drone really make that big of a difference, and you can actually tell how much damage was absorbed. Now, taking a look back at these Stalkers here, the Stalkers look like they're going to put in on that front door. Again, the siege tank in trouble, quickly gets destroyed as it was sniped down by Stalkers. And this is all because there are no Marauders. Marauders with a range of 7 should be able to at least do something, as Harrier now being forced to play a lot of defense here. That 1 point defense drone able to absorb a bit more damage again. SCVs now being brought over. The observer now able to flicker away again as the siege tank tries to deal some damage. Unsuccessful so far. It looks like the barracks will be destroyed once more, and now with 2 barracks down, Harrier now needs to rebuild barracks in order to be able to spend those minerals, no longer having the necessary mineral dump. Currently 1 Banshee hiding down over here on the bottom right hand side of the map. Nexus is currently being warped into play. Are the Stalkers going to be able to do a lot of damage? And now trying to focus down a siege tank, able to get 1 siege tank, but there were 2 more siege tanks as well. A second point defense drone, or the point defense drone still there. An auto turret unable to do any, or did some damage, as the Raven does have 2 kills. But so far things are not looking good for Harrier. Harrier does have a slight SCV advantage, but he does not have stim. He does not have a lot of the necessary upgrades in order to deal with all of these Stalkers, and Harrier really really aggressive with this plate now. Siege tank attempting to blast away at some of those Stalkers. It looks like the Raven making their way over again. The observer able to back off once more, SCVs off over here. More barracks now training up Marines. Perhaps we will be going into a tech lab and trying to get stim and combat shield on those Marines, and now getting the necessary medevacs as a siege tank is currently stuck. It looks like Harrier is going to be lifting off this barracks and perhaps trying to reestablish it, as this one siege tank has nowhere to run. So far, Harrier is sitting at 73 food versus 68. The pressure has really put a lot of just really slowed down the economy of Harrier. Harrier so far has lost a decent amount of siege tank. Taking a look at the total losses though, the players are pretty even. There is currently one observer that took a little bit of damage. It looks like it may try to run away here in just a moment. The auto turret looks like it could get destroyed. Siege tank is up on the high ground, and with no observer on the high ground except over here, it doesn't look like the Stalkers will be able to get damage on the siege tank. The siege tanks need to perhaps siege in the back. Here we go. A point defense drone may be added. There is that point defense drone. That point defense drone will be able to absorb more than 280 damage, as the siege tanks now finally able to hold off this front door location. But the observer now allowing more Stalkers straight inside the base. There are double siege tanks here. The Stalkers attempting to run away outside of that siege range. One barracks looks like it will go down. Combat shield about to finish. The research on that cannot get reset. A Raven now making its way over again. Stalkers are trying to peel away. The damage is being dealt. SCVs also absorbing some of that damage, as now all those units have decided to back off. Taking a look at the losses now, Harrier doing a great job not allowing the pressure to affect him. IMYongHwa, he does have an expansion though. Probe count 40 probes to 36 SCV. He does have a slight advantage, and with so many ledges and with so many observers, IMYongHwa just really abusing this blink to great effectiveness so far. We still see two siege tanks over here. SCVs now going overtime in repairing, and here we go. Stalkers trying to go in straight after siege tank. The point defense drone, it looks like it was or was not replaced, as the Stalkers now currently stuck on the high ground for a little bit of time. More siege tanks need to be added, as we are also going into a Ghost Academy. Observer now on the front door. There is still one point defense drone off here. Ghost now going into there. Ghosts have, I believe, a range of 7 as well, as we are going to see an engagement here. The Stalker, the point defense drone, absorbing so much damage, as you can see. SCV is now trying to repair. Is it going to be enough? The Ghosts did not get off an EMP shockwave, but the Ghosts were still very deadly, as the point defense drone still has plenty of hit points, or still has some hit points, and now regathering some of that energy. Stalkers looking to perhaps push in again. There are siege tanks here. Perhaps even one missile turret would prevent a straight up blink, as now another siege tank is going to get caught in transit trying to pull away. It does get taken out. SCVs, Marines do have stim. They're going to perhaps, no, they are not stimming, deciding to pull back instead, as the Stalkers do in fact have blink and are able to peel away again. A tech lab looks like it will burn down. This one Raven has really solidified the defense for Harrier, as the siege tanks are now attempting to roll out. Stalkers with their high mobility still causing problems, and IMYongHwa now finally getting into the lead. A Ghost quickly gets destroyed. Siege tank point defense drone needs to go down. There's a point defense drone. The Raven may get destroyed, and it does go down. So unfortunate, as the Raven does get taken down here. The Stalkers are still hiding off in the corner. No Marauders, and only Marines and siege tanks. Not enough to deal with these Stalkers. Medevacs, Marines, siege tanks now trying to make their way over again, as the Stalkers are able to retreat once more. And I just gotta say, Harrier has been doing, or sorry, IMYongHwa has been exchanging very well, and that's really been the difference so far. Siege tanks attempting to or will siege off over here. The Stalkers will just re-engage in a different location, attempting to attack wherever those siege tanks are not. The siege tanks are the real issue, but there are also Ghosts in this group. A third base has now been established by IMYongHwa. You can see medevacs, siege tanks are on the move. IMYongHwa has a slight army advantage. No, never mind, not a slight, a very large army advantage now, as Stalkers are looking to perhaps push in on the far side. The Stalkers could get in a decent flank, especially with that observer still keeping track and keeping tabs on that army. One Marine quickly falls. Siege tanks need to siege, and oh, this is going to be bad. HarrierProS losing all of his siege tanks. in transit once more. The siege tanks now turning around. The stalkers are going to blink away as the units. Where are they going to go? There is still siege tanks up on the high ground here. Are they going to perhaps reestablish this, as there is still an observer with this group keeping track and keeping tabs? IMYongHwa with a very small stalker army out front, but with an impressive zealot army with charge. Still no upgrades on the zealots, as the Marines don't have any upgrades either. Siege tanks, perhaps they will be able to get in position, but that is a lot of ghosts to deal with. And this is part of patch 142 though, so those ghosts would not be able to deal additional damage to any of those Archons. Archons are psionic, but really only 50 damage each, as another siege tank gonna get destroyed in transit again. This is not looking good. Harrier needs to keep and hold on to these siege tanks. Back home, there is not much defending. More medevacs being added again. There is a scanner sweep. The observer quickly gets destroyed as it accidentally flies within range of the scanner sweep here, as the Marines are going to simply walk up here and stim and try to clear out some of these probes. Probes are all falling. You can see the counterattack coming in. Zealots, Marines, Marauders, Ghosts getting off some EMP shockwaves. A huge amount of EMP shockwaves. Zealots now falling. Sentries, Marines, both sides battling it out. Archon still has a plenty of hit points there, as HarrierProS says GG. So HarrierProS doing a great job defending against IMYongHwa's just unrelenting attack from almost the 5 or 7 minute mark of the game. But really just time after time, the stalkers with those observers not destroying the observers was the real problem, the real issue, and IMYongHwa really showing how to play Protoss in an aggressive style. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.